Greetings, everyone. I'm Lance Dunahoe, and welcome to this edition of DFW Real Estate's Best Podcast, where we introduce you to the top producing agents and their vetted business partners, the real movers and shakers in DFW Real Estate. This week, we have two of my favorite people, returning guest and great contributor to the real producer community, one of the architects of the Austin improv comedy scene, performing over 7,000 shows worldwide, author of the book Plays Well with Others, and CEO of Rialto Academy, Mr. Les McGehee. And his very special guest, an agent who ranks in the top 500 in Fort Worth real estate year after year, a great connector and creator of community, known for delivering results for her clients, the fearless Miss Lynnneal Henderson with the Better Homes and Gardens Winans Walking You Home Group. So if you want to hear their stories, how they started, what inspires and motivates them, how they got to be who they are, then tune in right now. Welcome to DFW's Real Estate Best Podcast, brought to you by Real Producers Magazine. Jordan and I come to you live every Wednesday at 11 o'clock from your favorite platforms, Facebook Live, YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes. Before I introduce our guest, I want to share a little bit about the Real Producers community. RP is a national magazine in over 100 markets across the country. In DFW, we have 3 magazines and are launching our 4th Fort Worth Real Producers this August, essentially 4 magazine communities made up of the top 2,000 agents in DFW and their favorite vetted business partners, the best agents and the best businesses that they work with. And we get to share their stories with you. Today, we have a great show with some of my favorite Real Producers influencers, Les McGehee with Rialto Academy and Lynnneal Henderson. But before we get started, our podcast is powered by Thedifference. The Difference radio live stream podcast provides video branding and digital business development solutions for small business owners and entrepreneurs locally and statewide. With over 1 million viewers in 2021 and growing, The Difference can help any business grow their brand awareness and develop a message that humanizes your business, expands your connections and relationships, increases your influence and relevance, and quickly helps you become known as a power player and a mover and shaker in your sphere, community, industry, and business world. And with that, I'd like to bring on our guests, Miss Lynnneal Henderson and Mr. Les McGehee. Come on in.
Howdy, howdy.
How's everybody doing? Great to see your faces.
It's good to be seen.
It's better to see y'all's faces, actually.
Live and in person. Woo!
Well, welcome. I'm so excited. I know this is going to be an interesting and fun and educational conversation with no shortage of words between the three of us, because I know how much I've enjoyed every one of the conversations that I've ever had with you, with each of you. Before we get into that, though, I would love for you to quickly introduce yourselves to our audience. And I'll start with you, Miss Lynnneal Henderson.
Uh-oh. Here we go. Well, I'm Lynnneal Henderson, and that's Niña, not Nina, not Nina, it's Niña. And that's little girl in Spanish. And it's also Columbus's smallest ship, if that helps you know how to say it. And I'm with Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate Winans. I know everybody knows this, the magazine. You've seen it on your grandmother's coffee table. You've seen it at the checkout in the grocery store. It is a staple, and it's celebrating 100 years. It's quite the icon in our lives. And it's a lifestyle brand. I've been a realtor. I am in my 5th month of my 4th year. So even though there's snow on top, I'm just a puppy in this business. But I didn't get here without any experience. My mom was a builder. She was a builder for 25 years. She started out building. She built my home in Alabama, and she flipped houses and owned rental houses, and I was her painter and her go-to person, and my husband, who's an engineer, was her handyman when things went wrong. And so I know a lot about a lot of stuff, but you learn things by doing, and I learned that the hard way. The exciting part of my life that everybody gets a kick out of, and my husband used to say, is I like following my wife around. She has the greatest life. And that's because I grew up at a drag strip. My family put on drag races and motorcycle drag races for 25 years.
Wow.
So I know all about going fast. I produced a magazine like Lance produces a magazine now. I produced a magazine for a long time that was on newsstands throughout the United States, and we shipped all over the world. And it was called Motorcycle Performance, and we covered road racing, drag racing, and hot street bikes. So only things on two wheels. So if you want to talk about normally aspirated, turbocharged, injection, if you want to talk about one wheel, two wheels, the Texas Motorplex, I saw the first 200-mile-an-hour pass. We can talk about that. If you want to talk about, I don't know, pretty well versed. I worked in publishing in the private jet industry for a couple of years. And so I got to go to wine tastings in the Napa Valley and other places and travel on private jets. And our magazine was there. And I lived in Australia for 12 years and worked for Ducati Australia, New Zealand, and got to do most of that country on two wheels. So I've been around a little bit, seen a few things. I understand a lot. Mostly my background is marketing, but what ties all that together is I am the daughter of people who loved people. My grandfather was a Southern Baptist minister, and my parents were broadcasters and hard workers in Alabama. And we just love people. And so that carries through to my real estate career. I love serving people. And if they really believe and know what they want, I can work with them to make that happen. So that was probably a little more introduction than you wanted, but we just nipped it all in the bud, didn't we?
Well, no, we're gonna dig into some of those things because there's a lot to unpack there. You've got some incredible experience, and I love. We'll get into some questions, but I love what you have created here in a short period of time, and so we'll unpack that. Les McGehee,
Hey.
Who are you, man? How'd you get here?
Well, the day I was born. Let me jump forward a little bit. So in high school, in the country, in high school, I had an active imagination, and they were kind of slow at this. I had 118 people in my graduating class, and it was a little slow. And so I got in trouble playing dumb practical jokes, including on teachers and whatnot. And they ran out of punishments. And when they ran out of punishments, they called me into the principal's office. And so the principal and the vice principal were in there, stuffed into their shirts and ties. And they told me, they said, you know, you got put in a movie. People say you're, you know, such a great kid, and yet we're stuck punishing you all the time. And we're kind of running out of ideas. And, you know, Lance, that was the beginning of my consultative career. And so I heard that that was a consultative question. So I looked at those two gentlemen and I said, well, let's review our options and see what can be done. And 30 minutes later, I had the keys to the school station wagon and 2 days off a week. And they gave me a slide carousel to go around the middle schools and talk to them about how not to behave in high school. And I got in trouble one more time, and they made me host a talent show since I'd been in a movie. And at the talent show, the record player broke. So the coach that was punishing me had to go get the other record player from the library. Now, Lance, a record player is like a large, melty CD. All right. So he goes to get this other record player, and I had to tell some funny stories because otherwise the cafetorium was going to break into a riot out in the country. And like in a movie, telling those funny stories, one of the judges of the talent show was a guy with a comedy job. And he said, would you do comedy day after tomorrow at the convention center in San Antonio? And I said, no. And he said, it pays $185. And I said, I'm 16 and a half. Tell me where to sign. Right. And I showed up early to test the equipment and everything. And I opened that show for Paul Rodriguez. Some folks my age will remember Paul. And then that led to 7,000 appearances in 15 countries. I entertained the troops on tour twice. I became a show developer for Imagine Entertainment, working for Ron Howard and Brian Grazer and Tony Krantz. And I coached in entertainment. I coached 320 people through entertainment and developed television shows. And it was because of my book, Plays Well with Others, that a big real estate company asked me to come and speak at one of their conventions, Keller Williams in this case. And they were aware of my book and had me speak on that. And when I met all those realtors, I got really curious because I'd been raised by entrepreneurs, and I was since I did comedy from a young age, I always had businesses and was kind of a business nerd. So while other comics had day jobs, comedy was my job. And then I would start businesses. And so, when I got back to the hotel room or the comedy condo, I would, love to log in and see how many widgets we turned and stuff like that. And when I met realtors about 15 years ago, when I became familiar and started helping the big real estate companies, I kind of fell in love with the purity of the entrepreneurial situation of the realtor. I like it very much. I like the work that we do. I like everything about it. And it was a place for me to exercise my concepts and coaching. And so we formed Rialto Academy around that and opened Rialto Coaching, and have grown ever since. I don't know if now's the time to brag on our numbers. You ready to brag on some numbers? I got new numbers.
Go ahead, man.
Well, we have a campus product, we call it, which is a full service education platform that we sell to associations and large companies. And this month we will break 250,000 realtors on our campuses. I'm very proud of that. That includes Greater Fort Worth Association of Realtors, one of our great local associations. Thank you, Nina. I'm proud of that. And also, we have some other announcements to do with some coaching partnerships. This year, we got approached by a number of companies that were aware of our coaching success. And I'd like to take a moment and announce those, because one of those, Lance, is a little special surprise for you.
Yeah.
And if you ask me later, I'll show you what that one looks like.
Yeah, I want to come back to that for sure. Yeah, definitely. Wow. Well, I know you've got a ton going on. I want to kind of go back to you two first and how you both met. As I might have mentioned, maybe I did not. Well, you mentioned, Nina, that you're celebrating that Better Homes and Garden is selling 100 years. You've got an anniversary this month as well. You were featured 1 year ago in the May issue of Real Producers as our rising star. So congratulations on your 1 year anniversary. A beautiful story that I know this is sort of how the connection came between you and Les, because Les and his team of writers actually did the interview and wrote your story. But before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about in that year. As you mentioned, you've only been in real estate 4 years or so. You've accomplished a lot. You have busted through to the top 500 in Fort Worth real estate, which is, there's 60,000 realtors in the DFW and surrounding areas. And you know that there's a lot of things happening in this world, a lot of changes coming, and what it takes to be successful. But I want to just talk a little bit about from where you were this time last year to where you are now, kind of looking back. What's the last year been like? What's changed, or what's happened?
Well, it's been an interesting year. That we were still in a pandemic. In fact, in the last week, I've known 5 people who've been diagnosed with COVID. So it's not over.
Right.
And we've seen all these changes with interest rates and demand. And I worked really hard last year, and I did 39 transactions. Wow. And I worked really hard. And so within that year, I also brought on a partner. Her name is Angela Lance, and we are the Walking You Home group. We sat in this room at the Better Homes and Gardens Winans office in Arlington. We sat in this room and we talked through our brand strategy for our group and who we are and how we're going to show up in the world, and just started building on how to do things. And we're still in our early stages, but it's a lot. People want a lot, and at the same time, they don't know what they want. And so I haven't had much of a life, and that's okay, because there wasn't much life to have during a pandemic. So I like to work because I like people. And so I did that. I also learned that I was also building my business, and that's okay too. But I also know that I don't want to do 39 transactions this year. I want to change my measuring device, and everybody measures success on their own scale. Some is time, some is money, some is the number. It depends on how you measure your success. Some is by different sources of revenue. And so I'm making some changes there in my trajectory. And somebody that I follow recently said, dreaming, if somebody told me to build my bucket list or to share my dream out loud, I think I'd rather lick sandpaper than do that. That's a pretty good phrase. And that's exactly how I am. I'm not a dreamer. I have had an amazing life. Now, I'm not fancy schmancy millionaire, but my life is good. I'm happy. But I set a goal when my son was 7 or 8. He and my husband were talking about they want to go to all the continents, and they want to go to Antarctica because puffins and all these critters that live there look really cool. And so my husband said, well, by the time I'm 60, you'll be 30. And if we haven't gone by then, we'll go. My husband turned 60 2 weeks ago. Wow. So in January, my daughter reminded them that was their promise because she was young, but she remembered. And so I set that as my goal. It wasn't my dream, but it was somebody else's. And so my coach said, well, the way to really achieve your success is to do half of your target by the end of the first quarter. Yeah. Well, I did because I had the goal and it was real clear, but it wasn't about me. And so I learned something about myself, and I know Les as a coach, you tune into that. You tune into what really makes people tick. And I hadn't owned that about myself. And so that was a good eye-awakening thing for me. But in learning that, I thought, okay, well, all right, now I know that. And I'm going to actually pay for that trip by the end of this week. And my daughter said, oh, by the way, I'm in on that too. So I'm sending all 3 of them. I'm not going because it's cold there, if you didn't know. Antarctica is cold, so I'm not going. But I've set some goals, and that helped me a lot figure things out. I am connecting with my clients more and focused on working by referral more and really integrating myself into my community. As you know, I'm involved in my church. I'm involved in the Chamber of Commerce. I'm involved at the Arlington Board of Realtors. I'm on the board. And I'm collecting people, as the story says in your magazine, Lance.
Yeah.
So I'm collecting people who matter, not because of who they know, but because of what we can do together. And I consider you two part of my collection. You matter to me. Your emails come in. Your communication comes across my feed. I read what you say. I listen to what you say, whether you know that or not, because I want to hear what you have to say. So did that answer your question? I don't know. I'm talking.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And what strikes me too, this is, you mentioned about your son inspiring you about wanting to go to Antarctica. And my son recently said something similar. He wants to go to, he's quite a chef. He likes to cook. He wants to go to Australia to see a duck-billed platypus because he wants to make a duck-billed platypus custard because they're the only animal that actually lays eggs and produces milk. Right. So our children inspire us to do great things, don't they, Nina?
They do. And my son still lives there, and he'll be here on the 26th of June. And I am counting the days. I haven't seen him in 3 years.
Right. Well, Nina, you are so good. And you said that about during kind of COVID, that you were building your business. And that's what's so remarkable. If you think about, say, from 2018 to 2021, when we featured you, that was the time that you were creating a community, and you had moved here from out of state. You didn't know anybody. And in that time during COVID, you created community and created a sphere of influence, which is remarkable. I mean, it is exceptional. I was reading earlier on, just because I was checking some stuff out. I went to your LinkedIn profile, and, a lot of times you see what people put in there about themselves, and you're like, oh, that's kind of an exaggeration. And I read this and I'm like, that is Nina. I'm going to read it real quick. Tenacious professional with 30 years of experience in event management, sponsorship, sales, and management, marketing, communications, and public relations, with notable successes in both for-profit and nonprofit settings, draw on business instinct and timing to visualize and implement strategic initiatives that revitalize marketing efforts and improve brand awareness, experience building and leading high-performance teams, mentoring, aligning departmental efforts with overall organization objectives. And I love this, unafraid to take on challenges with drive to deliver results above and beyond expectations. When you start talking about your background, I know why you did 39 transactions, because you create an incredible, unique experience for your clients that gets them the results and creates something that I know is just the momentum that you've created, the compound effect of your sphere. It's just going to keep growing and growing. So with that, I want to kind of bring in Les, because I know he got to hear your story and y'all got to sit down and he was able to kind of tell that a little bit. But Les, tell me about your interaction with Nina and your first impression.
Yeah. Well, as you know, I really enjoy researching some of our best businesses in the market here. And so I got to write about Nina. And one of the first things I said in the article about Nina was, Nina's stories are better than yours. That wasn't directed at you, Lance. It was directed at just about everybody else, though. Nina's stories are better than yours. One thing Nina and I have in common is that our lives were very exciting along the way. And there are certain things that kind of happened that were full of excitement along the way. And so there are some people that have goals that I think, much like Nina, like you were just saying, Nina, that, some of my clients, I have a client who has accomplished one of his goals. He's going to space. And his previous goal was, could he work on cruise ships half the year? And while working on cruise ships half the year, he broke national records in his niche of industry. And so now he's booked his trip to space. And so the world travel thing, though, I've been in 15 countries, and I'm kind of excited that I get to stay home more than I used to. And so Nina and I kind of have in common that the life that brought us here was full of some really exciting things. And that has kind of informed the goals that we have going forward. We have amazing goals going forward, yet they're not identical to everyone else. They're pretty unique. And then another thing that I love that Nina and I have in common is that we grew like crazy during the pandemic shift. Similarly, Rialto grew approximately 400% since February of 2020. And we're very proud of that. We love our agility. There was nothing special about it other than we were agile, we were highly present, and we understood the shift and we applied ourselves to it. And now we continue to work off of a waiting list. I suppose we'll be at 400,000 realtors in our organization here within, maybe by the end of the year, even pretty close to the end of the year at the pace we're going right now. And have 8 coaches that coach for me, have the only PhD in America based on leadership in real estate organizations, have another PhD on interactive platforms that train realtors. Dr. Mahendra Sethi is that one. And so I've really enjoyed that. Yeah, interviewing Nina, it became quickly apparent that that it was kind of a no holds barred interview. And so when Nina and I started sharing war stories about exciting things that had happened earlier in life, shoo-wee, the clock stops, the wind settles down. I mean, that is some rich stuff, and I could have that conversation forever. And I guarantee you, I've only heard a fraction of the stories, yet I've heard some really good Nina stories. Nina, you present yourself so well and professionally in these environments, yet I'm going to tell everybody right now, if you had time to hear enough Nina stories, she has seen some cool stuff, man, some fast stuff, some notorious stuff, some people that are notorious to all of us historically. And if I can ask for a story, the story I'm going to ask for, Nina, is going to be Evel Knievel. And
let's hear that one, Nina.
Evel Knievel and the Wylie contest. Is it okay to ask for a story? I didn't get your permission ahead of time.
Do you have time?
Yeah.
So there's this guy, and he has a radio podcast. He has a radio show now in Memphis. His name is Lynnneal. He's the real deal. And Lynnneal is from Memphis. We used to have the World Finals in Memphis, Tennessee every year. And in those years, oh, I'm so sorry. In those years, when the economy wasn't great, we would bring in a special act, and we brought in Evel Knievel. And he was not, he had missed Snake River Canyon. And so this was after that, and he's recovering. And so he would just come in, do some stunts, bring his big bus, and he would challenge somebody to a wheelie contest. And so we knew Lynnneal could beat him, because when there was a really bad oil down after somebody had splattered oil all over the track, we needed something for people to see, because we had sold $5 tickets because it was cheap entertainment for all day. The whole family could come for $5. And so there's something for people to see. So we knew Lynnneal could go all the way to the finish line, 1,320 feet, turn around and come back. And so Evel Knievel gets on the mic with my dad and says, anybody who can come out here and beat me in the quarter mile, I'll ride my bike, you ride yours. And if you can beat me, I'll give you $100. And so Lynnneal says, me. And so he gets up to the start line, and Evel's in one lane and he's in the other, and they go at it. And Evel drops the wheel at about 1,000-foot mark, and Lynn goes all the way down to the finish line, past it, and comes back past Evel all the way to the starting line, drops the wheel, stands next to my dad, because we had a roaming mic at the time, and says, what do you think about that, Bob? And Evel was so mad. And so they just milked it. And so between rounds, Lynn would go out and do it again, and go out and do it again. Evel would do a different stunt, not that one. And at the end of the day, Evel pays him in $100 bills out there on the starting line in front of everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just to make drama out of it. This is my dad's idea. But it was dramatic and funny and embarrassing to an American icon, but just a guy named Lynnneal beat Evel in a wheelie contest at Memphis Dragway.
Yeah. Thank you, Nina. Yeah, that's all, Lance. That's all. Just a Evel Knievel day. That's all.
Yeah.
Everybody's got one of those, right?
No, I need one of those. One of those. That's good stuff. I'm sure those just those are endless. Real quick, Les, you were also featured in Real Producers in the August issue. You had a great story. You've got great stories of your own. And as we were talking, you know, you were talking about the things that you and Nina have in common.
Yeah.
And even in her you know, about on her LinkedIn, she says business instinct and timing to visualize and implement strategic initiatives. And I was thinking, gosh, that sounds like Les too, because go back to what you were talking about when the world kind of came to a stop, and all these realtor associations were scrambling, going, how are we going to keep these agents licensed, and how are we going to deliver this to them? You know, they did not have a good delivery method, and they were trying to figure out how to use Zoom and all these things. And just so happens that year you had spent developing a system for that now has grown into this incredible platform that a lot of these associations are using. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And then, you know, how is Rialto growing in the real estate space right now? What are you guys doing?
Well, those campuses, as we call them, Lance, those support every facet of education. So folks that are going to the building in the associations and the companies and brokerages that we help, very often they're walking in with a QR code and flashing, you know, they have it stored in their Apple Wallet or Google Pay, and they flash it to an iPad as they go walking in. And so we have automated features that support all of that stuff. And we produce and support maybe somewhere in the ballpark of 2,000 or 3,000 realtor trainings a year, coast to coast. And the folks who we get to serve in those associations and in the companies are doing extremely well. And the big companies take turns hiring us to do various things to help them. And we're really proud of that. We have a couple of, maybe now's a good time I can make a couple of announcements. Lance,
Yeah.
I love you and your operation at Real Producers so much that I made this the first stop for these announcements. We haven't put them out in a media release or anything. I wanted to start with you, my friend. And so Rialto Academy and Rialto Coaching is now a certified and official coaching partner for Compass Real Estate, of which there's about 200 of us here in our market. And we have a landing page for that. Also, Prime Street, which is maybe the nation's best lead giver and matchmaker virtual brokerage in the nation. And they work with all brands of agents. And they're doing really well growing in our market as well. We are the official coaching partner of Prime Street now. And we have a few other partnerships like Exit Community Realty, Barman Team, the #1 team in booking real estate conferences coast to coast. Yet there's one that is especially dear to my heart. And I'm going to take that opportunity to show a picture. Look at there. So those of you that are watching the recording could pause it right here if you wanted to and grab that thing. Yet also I know our producer, Lyndon, has the ability to post it and show you what you're going to get. So Lance, we're incredibly proud also in this format to announce that we're also a coaching partner for Real Producers magazines. And this is a landing page that we have where we describe how proud we are to work directly with these various partnerships. The coaches that work with me, we have everything from CPA background coaches. We believe in specialists. So we have coaches that do generally coach to success. And we also have specialists like our PhDs. We have a licensed therapist who specializes in the psychology of achievement. And we're very proud of that. And so our folks from Real Producers community that are watching this, anybody who wants to be first in line for the new partnership, I'll give you $1,000 head start. Drop me an email and we'll fix you up. Yeah, let's get going and have fun with that. And first adopters are always a hoot. So $1,000 head start will be interesting to some of our great top 500. And we're a little bit nerdy about research on our local market. So our research director, who used to be the research director for one of the largest real estate companies, lives right here in our market. And between them and our association clients and the realtors that we get to help, we stay uniquely in touch with opportunities and whatnot. Yet really, Lance, as you know, yet I appreciate the opportunity to share with everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Coach is only as good as their clients do. And so looking, we're pretty good, yet looking at our clients' benefit and what our clients have accomplished, oh, you'd think I was twice as smart as I am. I mean, our clients are just doing great. And and so we've had 2 clients publish books this year. We have a client going to space. We have clients that totally dominate their markets and do their business exactly in the amounts and the style that they choose to do. Wow. Totally surrounded by clients for life, much like Nina. I coach a lot of people that are focused and energetic like Nina is. And I'm really proud of that. In the real estate space, we coach not only agents and brokers and some of the big companies, yet in the real estate space, we also coach people that sell to the real estate space, like those conference bookers and authors and things like that. That's the 4th. These 2 books make the 4th, 4 books total that our clients have published. 2 of them made #1 within a month of publishing. The other ones are a little bit new. We'll see how they do. And we're really proud of the effect that we have when we get to see, it's about them, it's about them, it's about them. And so looking at the progress of the people that we coach is very heartwarming. And I got to say that it's a type of way to spend my life that I have learned to hold very dear. And the coaches, they really like it. It's very fulfilling to work with people who grow themselves and come back with victories that we get to share in. And I would say Real Producers is one of those. I was there before y'all launched. I've enjoyed being part of your launch. I enjoyed contributing to the magazine. I believe in you guys immensely, and to watch your success and your growth and how many realtors you helped, and the heartfelt way it happened. Sometimes I think of our local icon, Randy White, as well. Randy White with a tear in his eye after reading his article and knowing what it meant to his mother. So that's the sort of richness we live in. We're also numbers nerds. We're numbers nerds, psychology nerds. We do all of that as well. But there's nothing like an achiever getting a tear in their eye, achieving goals when it comes to staying motivated and enjoying this work.
Yeah, Les, let's talk about it. You mentioned you guys are a bit nerdy about numbers. You're very data driven. Is it data? But you look at the indicators, right? And really try and be forward thinking. I know that just even timing wise, we have deadlines for the magazine, and you've written articles in June that we're going to go to print in August, that it seemed like it was just magic timing, almost like you could predict the future, and have done such a good job at looking at those indicators. I want to hear a little bit about that, but then I want to kind of come back to Nina, because I want to hear a realtor's perspective on that and sort of where the market is heading. If you have any market insights, we know this is a seller's market. We're starting to see things cooling off, and I want to kind of get your perspectives, and then, again, from Nina, what she might see is happening.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Lance. Yeah, it's interesting you frame that in terms of being able to tell the future, because one of the groups that we enjoy sharing information with are the futurists. And something that the futurists are really good at is sorting out the difference between fluctuation, trend, and change. Like, is something really a shift, or is it just a fluctuation? And so as we take a look at our data, data becomes really valuable when you look at it regularly, so that you can tell interesting stories from the way it moved and what's going on. And so one thing we're fortunate about in our market is we get really thorough and good data, and we look at it, and if we see an ongoing trend, we flag it, we pay attention to it. And if it's an out and out shift, we recognize that. If it's a trend that's continued for more than a few months, 3 to 4 months, then we're going to analyze that and see if that is a change and not just a trend or just a fluctuation. The market right now, as an example, in the last few months, some of what we've seen, the various pundits will say is change, yet there's also evidence that some of it was fluctuation. Yet, similar to what Nina was saying earlier, we really believe in the agent taking accountability, the agents and brokers taking accountability for their own businesses. So, for instance, when there's low inventory, well, as one of my clients who published recently says, do you make everything make you better? Make everything make you better. So that information that it's low inventory, well, I guess it's tough to be the other guys. Yet you notice Nina doesn't have a hard time finding inventory. Okay. So our ability to take accountability as business people and go find inventory in this environment is extremely powerful, and separates us from people who weren't using good business practices in the first place. Lance, I know one of the things that you and I chatted about once was we had a little flood of people come running to Rialto coaching right after the pandemic started. And they said, what can you do for us? And some of them, we had to say, you were ignoring good business practices for so long that this is going to be tough on you, right? Yet people who have good business practices in the first place, that combined with a little bit of open-minded agility, change is good for us. We're just fine with that. It's tough on the other people that don't pay attention. Nina, look at her with plenty of business. She paid attention before it happened, and she makes things make her better. So now she gets to do what she wants with the development of her. I'm sorry to talk about you in the third person, Nina, yet it's a beautiful example, I think, of this market is a market that we're going to get what we make out of it. The basic health indicators of the market are just fine. Okay. Now, our clients, of course, are seeing the evening news, and the evening news is saying crazy things like new home construction is down 4% a month, 2 months in a row. What are they talking about? The entire nation? So, Rialto studies all these individual markets, and certainly our market, yet markets are unique. Markets are incredibly unique in some cases. And so to say blanket things about the entire nation, they're just selling news. They're just selling news on news shows and entertaining and trying to keep our clients scared and nervous about things. Yet the market is just fine. Prices continue to go up. Buyers are still interested. Sellers are still selling. Agents need to take accountability, uncover their own inventory, talk to their sphere, uncover who they're going to help, and use the basics. So like always, to summarize this, Lance, like always, we believe in the things that always have worked and always will work. The business basics of the last 100 years that have been proven and proven and proven. And the other thing we believe in is opportunity and agility. And so if you run your business with both of those things in mind, we predict great outcomes in this particular market. And when the market changes a little bit more, you will continue to have an advantage because of your combination of strong basics and your ability to be agile and find the business anyway and be of service to the largest economic indicator in the nation and people going into homes. These are real people that we're helping. Go on and go help them. Collect them like Nina does. Go collect these people and do a good job for them.
Les, I want to bring Nina into this because, Nina's proven, of course, just as you said, during the pandemic, being agile and finding opportunity and to grow her sphere while others, have been struggling and people were dropping out. Nina, we're talking about some of the market indicators, specific to our market, but nationally, everything else. What are you seeing and what's kind of the feedback from an agent perspective as far as agents are related, not necessarily just our clients, but what are some indicators that you're seeing and things that you think people should be aware of, other agents should be aware of?
Well, I made some notes while Les was talking, as I do. And he used a word that I have used as one of those that makes my antenna go up. He used a word called crazy. And crazy is a symptom of COVID because it makes people go crazy. And so I don't use the word crazy in real estate at all, talking to clients, talking to other agents, talking to anyone in brokerages, because it doesn't serve anyone. So I just can't use that word because it's contagious and it makes buyers look like this. I need a house. I need it now. And what we saw from that was people got so used to, I need a house. I need it now. I need a house. I need it now. Write an offer. And they wrote an offer and then they got a contract, but it was their 12th offer and they got the contract. And then they went, oh, but I didn't really like that one. And so now we're seeing the back on markets because they had exercised that. Make a bad offer so much that they didn't know what to do when they got it. So as agents, we are having to shift. So that's a little bit of my crazy lecture. Yeah. So let me go back to
Nina, because we had this conversation before, because I want to pause here. You said it before. We were talking about the difference between that words matter, right? And how you and I know Les is a big believer in that too. We were talking about the difference between correctly and accurately, and even how some of those words and giving a message to our clients that empowers them too, instead of putting things out there, really that they take things internally. So I want to kind of explore that a little bit before we get into what you were saying specifically about the market.
Yeah. So I do think words matter. And because of the pandemic and the dive in the interest rates, I think we went right into warp speed. We skipped over the sound barrier and hyperdrive. We went right to warp speed. And so we skipped the steps that matter. We skipped sitting down and listening to the client. We went right to, okay, here we go. Let's make an offer. We skipped the part where we listen and where we really get to know, and we ask the questions and then we answer them back. Because, I learned by being married for 35 years this year, that sometimes you don't know what you think until you say it out loud, because we've been in a box, and we've been in this box for so long. We're just typing on our keyboards and on our phone. And so until we've said it out loud to another human being, we don't know what we've said. And so what they heard and what I said and what I meant may not be the same thing. So that buyer consultation, that seller consultation are so important. And we gained a whole lot of realtors. And one of the things we talked about earlier in the pre-podcast, I'm sorry we're saying that, y'all listeners, was that any turkey can fly in a tornado, because everything's flying. Signs are flying, houses are flying, buses are flying. Any turkey can fly. But if you haven't been training and exercising that muscle, you're going to drop, and soon. And so we are always back to basics, always. And so I'll stop and tell another short story. I had a broker from another state want to buy an investment property here because she's going to have a grandbaby. And so she wanted to have a place to come and stay and visit her grandbaby and to lease out 30 days plus. And so I sent her, we went through everything, because Texas law is different than their law. And the rules are different. And I sent her the buyer rep agreement. And she goes, I just thought that was so cute. We don't do those here. And I went, oh, really? Because I still go through the whole buyer rep agreement, even if I've worked with you before. And I go through the whole listing agreement, even if I've worked with you before, because that honors me and honors you. And you get to ask the questions. And when I first started working, I might have moved through that a little too quickly, but you're going to learn that lesson. The question is, are you going to learn it now? Or are you going to learn it when you're going to have to dance really hard? So I know these are probably off topic, but yep.
Real quickly, I'll tell you, I own a home inspection company, and we're having to pull back as well and reel people back in and have a conversation about the home inspection report, making sure that people read the first 2 pages that the Texas Real Estate Commission has laid out about the responsibilities of the inspector and the responsibilities of the client. Because as you mentioned, they're buying houses that they don't really love, paying more than they want to. They get into those, and there's often buyer's remorse. And if there are things that come up, there's sour grapes. And if a seller if it's been a short option period and they didn't get an inspection or whatever, there's disclosure, there's lawsuits just rampant right now because people are in this position. So we've really had to become so intentional with kind of covering the 6 key points of an inspection, so that our clients understand that if they don't do anything about these items, before they go to closing or before their option period ends, they're going to have to live with it. It's like a marriage, that you're kind of stuck with it once you've done this. So I think you're absolutely right. It's going back to those basics, slowing everything down so that people don't have regret in this market.
And a bad decision is going to cost you thousands.
Yeah.
We're not just making an offer and it's costing you $300 anymore.
Yeah.
It's $1,200 to make an offer. And I don't know about you, but I don't spend that much money on a weekend shopping for houses.
Right.
Not going to do it. I'd much rather have a really nice time instead of hard work. So that's one of the things that I think is crucial right now. And I think the agents who have been, I've been fortunate. I've had lots of listings lately. And when you have listings, you get to see what other people's practice is. Mm-hmm. And so I got to learn that I did, in fact, have my finger on the pulse of the market. And it's taking those extra steps as an agent to look at the numbers, see where the houses last week closed, where they were listed and where they closed, and looking at those comps and looking at the pictures, and going to all the trouble to not just get the quick CMA, but to do the RPR CMA and actually look at the houses that you've chosen and not be surprised by the house didn't appraise. Oh no, it didn't appraise. I don't want to hear that. That is the agent's responsibility to get as close as possible. And I was really, until 2 weeks ago, out of all my transactions, I had only missed once on the appraisal amount, but I got to 2, and I was $2,000 off, and we came to good terms. So I was really pleased. But I'm going to be wrong sometimes, and sometimes we're just going to the appraiser and I are not going to agree. But I don't have that license. He does, or she does. So I think we really have to do the hard work, and it's not sexy. I'm sorry, it's not sexy. Just like Les and his spreadsheets, it's not sexy. But in the end, when the result is there for that person, that is good. And I'll have that all day long. And so the conversation I have with my brokerage has collaborate, where agents get together and we can have a conversation about what's happening in the marketplace. And I really love that, because I like to know what other people's experience is, because I'm offering like crazy, but I'm trying not to create that buyer fatigue so that they get the wrong feeling and step out of the market. And like so many people did last year. Yeah. They were at warp speed and they were breaking the sound barrier. And so what I like to think that we're doing now, instead of 40 offers on a property, we're getting 3 to 5 offers on a property, but they're good.
Yeah.
They're all good offers. And so if we will communicate with the people who are making offers, and we communicate as agents, then we are not wasting each other's time. We are not misleading and wearing out our clients, and we are communicating with our lenders and our title partners, then we are being effective. That has not been my experience 90% of the time. There's a lot of junk, and I'm not calling people junk. I'm calling their work product junk. Mm-hmm. And so I want to encourage people to sharpen their sword, because right now, the agents that are going to be successful, if I had to forecast, let's see, what was it that, who was it? The Tonight Show, Johnny Carson, he would put the envelope on his forehead. What?
Karnak.
And yes.
Karnak.
And so what I see in the future is
and
that
the answer is
smart agents will be successful. So we are working at smart speed. Builders are doing a better job, but they too are training new people. And they too are doing their best. They're getting things they need to build, but they're working at smart speed too.
Yeah.
We're fatigued. And so we have to be smart, or we're not going to make it through the end of this year. And the demand is there, and so we have to. All right, more than you wanted to know. I will tell you that the 2 economic forecasts that I swear by are Mark Dotzer. He did a fantastic explanation of the economic forecast. And if you can ever listen to Lawrence Yun, listen to Lawrence Yun, because they're the kings. They have their finger on the pulse, and whatever they speak, devour it, and listen to it 3 times.
Yeah, on the national market, you have to include Lawrence for sure. For hyperlocal market, there are some choices yet. For the national market, everyone has to include Lawrence if they're serious about data.
Yeah. Well, I think what you guys both described, like you said, the warp speed, and I think back to your racing days, the nitro, the blue, the white flame nitro is where we've been just running it, just extremely, and now we're back to petrol, but it's still a really hot market, right? It's propane, but you're still getting those great offers. It's not necessarily cooling off. It's just kind of leveling back to a hot market instead of that blue flame market. And but I think you're right, Nina. I think there's just so many to have that ability like you've created to create opportunities. And the adaptability, you got to be adaptable in this and adjust some of your scripts. I know Les talks a lot about that in his coaching, just the little changes, because words matter in your scripts to describe what's going on, and to set those expectations, because we did see a lot of people get hurt and with some regret and remorse after this last year. So I appreciate both of you guys and your professionalism. I know you take such good care of your clients and serve them so well. I want to bring Lyndon on. Lyndon, are you back there? The man in the chair, there he is. Lyndon,
I'm still here.
Wizard behind the curtain. Don't touch the curtain.
The wizard is so. Lyndon always has some great. He's been listening. And I know you've got some insights, Lyndon. I'd love for you to just take the last 5 minutes here.
Well, more than just insights. I mean, when we talk to Les and we hear from Nina, and as most all the guests that have been on Real Producers, one of the things I wanted to study 3 years ago when I created The Difference is I wanted to study what the difference was between the people that were the high achievers and those that were not necessarily high achievers, but worked just as hard, right? Hard work does not necessarily equate to high level production or accomplishment. Right. So I wanted to be aware of that. It's just always fascinated me, when I look at two people and I'm like, they're both busting their tail. One, it seems to be easy. One, it seems to be hard. And it's not that it's easy for the other person. A lot of times the other person is just doing some behind the scenes work we don't see. So they're working hard too. But one of the things that always came to one of the characteristics that you could always put together, number one, and I always say this, is mindset. That was the first thing that you could identify that really started to separate the two. But the other one was leadership. And listening to both of you, you talk in a way that it shows your leadership. It shows your passion for leadership and helping others. Here's what I want to ask. Who throughout your beginning until where you are now, who is it that's made the difference for you? Who has been a mentor or an inspiration or a motivation or someone that you've modeled yourself after, that has had an impact and you could say has made the difference in how you've pursued success from day one until now? Nina, we'll go with you first.
I am a product of entrepreneurs, my parents. I was folding letters and stuff in envelopes as a young child. My parents ran their own business all of my life. I only know how to work. That was what we did for fun. I did high school and band and softball. That was if I had time. So they taught me how to work hard and smart. And they taught me how to love along the way. And you got along with the people that you were doing it with, no matter what, because you didn't have a choice.
Right.
They were your family. And then as you grew, the people along the way were mentors. Yes, I picked up mentors along the way. And sometimes the mentor's not the right one. And in this market, my mentor is Rod McDonald. He is the guy who was my agent when we moved to the DFW area with Better Homes and Gardens Winans. He is Dana Winans' brother. He was in the brokerage with Dana and David Winans selling homes. And I couldn't get a job. And so after I couldn't get a job, 100 applications, I didn't fit in, the way people are finding people for jobs now. And I called him and said, I need a job. Do you think I could really do this? You said that. And he said, yeah. And so I asked people along the way, I would say, who should I talk to? And he would say, oh, go talk to Robin Barrera at Old Republic Title. I went to talk to Robin, and she said, do A, B, C, D, E. And so I did what she said. And then they said, well, go talk to Jewel. She's the office manager for Arlington. And Jewel said, well, do A, B, C, D, E. And so I did those things. And then somebody else said, well, do this course. And so I did that course. So people told me what to do, and I did it. That's all I did was follow the instructions. So that's my answer.
Yeah, Lyndon, there's a bunch of people that helped me along the way. I was fortunate. I got to work hand in hand with, some of the greats like Ron Howard and Jack Welch and even Gary Keller and people like that. Yeah, I think I'm going to go all the way back, and certainly my parents, who were both entrepreneurial. I'm going to go back to a guy named Bob who ran P&B Garage in the country. And Bob was a little bit unwashed and always had an unlit. He was trying to quit smoking cigars the whole time I knew him. And so he had an unlit portion of a cigar all slobbery in the corner of his mouth. It was a little tough to look at up close. Yet one day I needed an alternator on my teenage car. And he said, I'm not going to fix that. And I said, why not? He says, because you should know how to fix that. I'll show you how to do it. And so he gave me some tools and he showed me how to do it. And I said, I'm sorry, I don't know how to do that. And he said, do you know how to learn? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, then there you go. I guess you'll learn. And people that learn can do anything they want in this world. And he says, about that not knowing stuff, don't forget this. And he laid this on me, Lyndon. He said, ignorance is common knowledge. And so the idea that there's everybody has things to know, yet we're people that learn, and learning is circular, right? You might learn in the same category a bunch of times on your way up the hill, right. Yet ignorance is common knowledge. He also said 6 of one, half dozen of the other, just make a choice. Those things have helped me quite a bit.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Nina, Les, again, thank you for being on today. Lance, thanks for doing another great show, having great guests. Thanks to Real Producers for being a part of the difference. We love you bringing on people that can share what's made the difference and how they're making the difference, not only in their communities, but in their industries as well. And so want to thank everybody for watching today. And we want to get you to come back next week, Wednesday. Yeah, don't forget the QR code there.
Have fun.
What an offer from Les. And so we'll see everybody next week, same time, 11 o'clock.
Thank you, Lyndon.